Hello everyone, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. We use our social media platforms to have conversations and to create space for all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan: support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces, and we've actually just dropped a thought piece this past Sunday. So definitely be sure to meander over to the website, subscribe to the website, and check out our online content. Now, if it is the case that you are looking for a listening alternative, well, we're available on 12 different podcast platforms for your listening leisure, and we've provided you with access to the links in the description down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Allô les meufs et les mecs. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And today our topic of discussion is on mental health. And on the conversation of mental health, we're taking a cerebral approach by way of our mental health and really talking a little bit about how different attitudes and mindsets that we can take on can really help us to heighten and to increase and to protect and maintain and sustain our overall mental health, especially in relation to the way that we perceive mistakes. And this is something that I find to be quite widespread. So regardless of culture or context, a lot of the times we really do put a lot of scrutiny, a lot of judgment, a lot of criticism on the mistakes we've made. And yet the ability to cultivate the capacity to think critically typically stems from our mistakes, from personal failures. And the one benefit that we have about learning from our mistakes and not necessarily learning about mistakes in general or being a bystander to the mistakes that other people make is that there's a tag to the mistake that we make, an emotional tag to that mistake that makes it all the more memorable and makes all of the details so much more tangible for that learning to really cement and do a really deep shift in the way that we approach, navigate, and decide how to show up in the world after that mistake was done. So I think that there's a lot of work to be done, but I like to be a voice of the voices that are starting to sort of gain momentum to really change the attitude, change the conversation around mistakes. It's not just about iterating. It's not just about, finding different ways to do things. It's about giving ourselves permission to make mistakes, recognizing that it is through our mistakes that we're cultivating and reinforcing, strengthening even our capacity to think critically about how to navigate in the world around us. Thinking critically isn't just something that needs to be done or is valued in an academic or in a corporate setting. Anywhere you go, you want to be able to think critically, to be able to decide how to make the best of wherever it is you are and whatever context that you're in, and also how to protect yourself, how to gauge risk in an appropriate manner. So I think that every opportunity that life gives us to think critically in the way that we see things and in the way that we think about things, why not take it? So I'm going to do a 2-part series because those are my favorite, and this is going to be the first of my 2-part series where I'm going to give you 3 tenets, so 3 things to keep in mind that should enable you to give yourself some permission to make mistakes, because at the end of the day, you learn from those mistakes and they're really good for you. And as someone who is a recovering perfectionist, someone who definitely spent a lot of her time battling with perfectionism, I think just accepting and recognizing myself as the flawed person that I am, it promotes self-forgiveness. And self-forgiveness is so important to our mental health. And being perfectionistic, being someone who is not tolerant of making mistakes, themselves, is someone who projects that to the world around them. So my intolerance with the way that I show up in the world around me, with my performance, with the way that I learn, with the way that I am currently navigating in the world around me, and some of the shortfalls that I currently have, it translates in my relationships. It translates in the way that I communicate with other people and how I converse with other people. And it translates as someone who is fairly unforgiving. And I never want to be seen as someone who is unforgiving. I always wanted to be seen, and I always wanted to be the kind of person who could forgive different mistakes, because to err is human. But I had to first start by teaching myself that it is okay to forgive myself for the ways that I didn't show up for myself, for the things that I didn't know in advance, for my ignorance, for my, for putting my foot in my mouth all those different times that I've done, or for making a faux pas all the times that I've made those, those errors in judgment, and just to let myself off my own hook, which allowed me to see other people as human beings as well. And the thing about perfectionism is when you hold yourself to such a high standard, where not only do you not tolerate mistakes, you come to believe that you don't make mistakes, then you really do give yourself permission to look down on other people who are kind of stumbling through life as the flawed beings that they are, learning and living through the mistakes that they're making, like really appreciating and getting the most out of life, because you're not giving yourself permission to do that. So I think the first step is really just about promoting self-forgiveness, about giving ourselves permission to be more human, giving ourselves permission to show up flawed as we are, ready to learn, ready to grow, ready to make the most of who we are in that situation, make the most of that situation in and of itself, and give ourselves permission to grow. Again, with that forgiveness in place, because it's hard to grow without failing your way to, to the growth that it is that we're seeking. That brings me to my second point. So making mistakes, forgiving ourselves for our mistakes, that's the first thing, but rebounding from the mistakes. And that's another skill. It's something that it's a tool that we need to learn. And I think that is a tool that is best learned when we're teaching ourselves self-forgiveness. So when it comes to rebounding, to bouncing back, to resolving, or to making amends, how does that look like when it is the case that we're in the process of forgiving ourselves for the mistakes that we look at? And if it is the case that we're fairly intolerant, that we're not all that warm or open or capable of forgiving ourselves, that again will translate and it will impact our relationships, because the way we treat ourselves are also the ways that we show up in the relationships around us. And the way that we can best support ourselves in articulating our needs for what it is that we require to get a sense that, you're looking to make amends and you're looking to build a bridge, and I'm open to building a bridge and making amends, is those conversations that I have with myself. So self-forgiveness is a process. It's an opportunity to let go. And I believe forgiveness is less about repairing relationships and it's more about letting go of the pain that that action or reaction created in me. It's like letting go of the way that it impacting me and giving myself space to grow beyond the impact of the said event, however it translated, or even the non-event, whatever took place or didn't take place that now requires that forgiveness. Forgiveness is less about the relationship, more about my ability to let the energy of those actions go and give myself the space to grow and to heal from that situation. And I think the best way that we know how we need to grow, or what it is that we need to grow and heal from specific situations, is by giving ourselves the opportunity to trial and error with ourselves. When it is the case that I need to forgive myself, I know, well, in this context, in this setting, I need X amount of time, I need to, work on X amount of skills, or I need to do this or that. Like, what do I need to do to make myself feel like, atonement has been made for the actions that have been done? So I don't think that forgiving ourselves means letting ourselves off the hook. I think sometimes we think forgiveness just means brushing it under the rug. No, it means addressing it. It means making amends. And I think the best way that we learn how to forgive in a healthy way, where we're still recognizing our value, where we're still valuing our emotions, where we're still protecting and preserving our growing sense of selves is by holding ourselves accountable and putting an action plan together. It's like, hey, I didn't show up for myself the way that I wanted to. Like, how do I make amends? Like, how do I repair this relationship? The most important relationship that you have, which is the one with yourself, and then recognizing that the language that you cultivate as you work on your route to self-forgiveness will translate in the way that you speak and build healthy relationships with others, which is going to involve, its own healthy amount of events that are going to require forgiveness, because we're all growing, we're all learning, we're all going to make mistakes that impacts another person or ourselves in a way that might not be the most positive. But I think that when we start to practice self-forgiveness, we start to develop the language, the acumen, the skill set for what it means to forgive. What actions do I need to feel like I'm being sincere and requesting and apologizing, whether that's apologizing to myself for not showing up for myself a certain way. Like, how do I need to change my behavior? What change behavior needs to be in place for the given context and situation for that forgiveness to feel sincere? Internally, again, with myself first, and then externally with the people, situations, and settings that you're in as well. The last point that I want to make around mistakes and why mistakes are such an important part of our growth and development is that mistakes change realities. There are kinds of mistakes that we're going to make throughout our lives that are just going to change the new normal. There is no going back beyond that mistake, and that is part of life, and there's nothing wrong with the fact that things are not going to be, repairable to what they were prior to. And I think that a lot of the times we have a hard time forgiving ourselves because of this regret. And what I like to say is regret is misplaced energy, because a lot of the times where it is that we feel regret, where it is that we feel remorse, is through the lens of someone who now knows better because they've done those actions. You wouldn't have felt that regret or that remorse if you were still the person that you were who hadn't yet experienced the consequences of your actions and recognized that it was a mistake. So I think when it is the case that you're combating regret, when you're combating remorse, when you do feel bad for the things that you've done, to make sure that you're expending that energy wisely, recognize that regret and remorse is actually a byproduct of the learning that your actions are creating within you. So let go of the regret and remorse, hold yourself accountable, find a way to feel as though you're doing what you can within your power, within what is appropriate to make amends for the situation that took place, and then allow yourself to grow from it. It's like you live to learn, you learn to laugh about it. And yeah, some things aren't like a laughing matter, but you live to learn at the end of the day through the highs and lows of life, through the mistakes that we make in life, through the ways that we've fallen short for ourselves and for the people around us, but allowing ourselves the opportunity to forgive ourselves so that we can take the learning and give ourselves the opportunity to not only know better, but to do better with what it is that we know, and not allowing ourselves to get hung up emotionally on the process that is involved beyond our mistakes. And sometimes that process involves change realities. It means certain relationships don't get to continue. It means we're not allowed in specific settings anymore. It means that our environments are going to change for the better or for worse for a period of time. And all of that is part of the school of hard knocks that we call life. And all of it is valuable, right? So all of it is valuable. All of it is just an indication of your growth. And we're not just going to grow through the good times, the highlights, the successes, the ways that we are celebrated by the people around us. We're also growing through the ways that we didn't show up or the ways that we fell behind. And I think that it's very important that we start to be a little bit more balanced in the way that we look at accomplishments and failures, recognizing that they both serve a purpose to inform our sense of selves and inform our critical thinking lens and inform the way that we want to show up and want to sort of present ourselves in the world around us, and also inform like how we are becoming, right? Our identity and how we want to influence and inform how our identity is evolving through and throughout these experiences that we have in life. So this is a larger conversation, but I think it's a conversation we need to have because I really do want to build supporting arguments that are convicting enough that it gives you permission to be human, to be more human, to break from this idea that you need to be perfect in order to be valued, or you need to be perfect in order to be worthy. We are born inherently worthy. And if it is the case that you struggle with a sense of worthiness because the people around you are trying to make you earn your sense of worth or earn your place or earn your seat at the table, it's time to make a change to that setting and find yourself aligned with people who just naturally see the worth and the value that you bring into every room that you light up. So that was the conversation for today. Definitely not all, but scratching the surface in a significant way, I hope for you, enough for you to go down a little rabbit hole of your own to think about about how you can start practicing self-forgiveness and how you can give yourself the opportunity, the chance to cultivate that language so that you can have those conversations and articulate your needs outwards when it is the case that you're practicing forgiveness with other people, if that translates as maintaining the relationship, so on and so forth. And again, happy to continue the discussion. I would love to hear your point of view, your perspective in the comments down below. But before letting you go, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we will be going live at least twice a month, every month for the foreseeable future on our Facebook page. So definitely be sure to join in on those conversations. Now, these events are paid events, so if you do see yourself participating in our community on an ongoing basis, then I do suggest that you take a look at one of our package plans. Yes, so we do offer package plans that give you unlimited access to our live events, as well as access to webinars and workshops over and above these live events. So definitely be sure to tune in. And if you are concerned about pricing, please don't be. We have just incorporated a new payment solution, Afterpay, that gives you the opportunity to make payments in 4 installments over a period of 6 weeks, rendering all of our programs and services more accessible to you. So without further ado, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're still watching, subscribe, join the game changer community that we're building here. Become a Zen warrior as we are doing here. Stay grounded, stay centered, and be intentional about how you show up in the world around you. So all of that to say, thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to chatting with all of you very soon. We'll talk to you later.